Okay, good morning and welcome back. We're going to do another type of drawing today. We're going to do one called measured perspective. It's a pictorial or 3D drawing as we've done before, but this time instead of estimating things that we did with the previous perspective drawings, we're going to measure them and make it a lot more accurate. This is a technique that architects and designers use to show a true representation of what their final design is going to look like once it's been built. So what we've got a little child's playhouse here, 1700 millimeters tall, 1500 millimeters from front to back, and 2100 millimeters from left to right. It's also got a couple of windows on the front, and it's got a gutter which is at 1100 millimeters above the ground. So what we've got over here, this is where we're going to draw our measured perspective. We've got this here. This is called the spectator point. That's where the observer would be standing if they were looking at the building. So they're standing here, and this is a plan view of the building. So they're looking at that corner, looking in on this corner here. And we're going to draw here what that person is going to see in reality. We've got a point here called PP. That stands for picture plane. That's probably the most important line on the drawing. That's where all our change in direction is going to occur. So the first thing I'm going to do with that is I'm going to extend it all the way along. So I take the pencil and I extend it along there. It's like a bounce line. There are lines which are going to hit this, and then they're going to go and head vertical up the way or vertically down the way. Now what I also need is a ground line that I can measure from, and I need a position where my eyes would be. The ground line can be anywhere. It could be up there, it could be further down towards it, but in this case I'm just going to move up a couple of centimetres and draw a ground to represent the ground line. Put a GL for ground line. And the next position that I need are where the eyes are going to be. Now the distance between the ground line and the eye level is quite important. It has a big effect on what the finished drawing is going to look like. Now in our case we're going to say that the eye level is 1 metre above the ground line. This drawing is on a scale of 1 to 50. So what I've got here is a scale ruler with a 1 to 50 scale on it. If I can find it. This is our 1 to 50 here. I've said that the eye level is going to be 1 metre above the ground, so I'm looking for that position there. So put my ruler on here, put a little dot at 1 metre, and I'm going to continue that across the page. And this is my eye level. Okay, I know it's a little bit bitty to begin with, but we'll get there. Here's our house. It's got a side going in that direction, and it has a side going in that direction. They will be two specific angles, and in this case that one is at 30 degrees, which means that this one must be at 90 degrees. First thing I'm going to do is go to the spectator point, very carefully draw a line from there till it hits the picture plane, parallel with the edge of the house. Then go to the other side, spectator point, draw a line till it hits the picture plane, parallel with the edge of the house. Then turn, and I'm going to go vertical through there, and I'm going to go vertical through there. This point here now becomes vanishing point 2, and that point there becomes vanishing point 1. So we have our two vanishing points, which is kind of familiar because we've used them before. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take height lines, because these are measured perspective drawings, so it's important that we get heights. And we're going to take lines along the edge of the building, and we're going to fix our heights based on that. A little bit difficult to grasp what's going on, but if you stick with it, it's a routine that works time and time again. The most important one of these two height lines is actually the one that goes along this wall, because that fixes the height of the gutter, the height of the pointy roof, which is a little bit higher, and the gutter at the back. So I'm going to take a line very carefully, touches the edge of the building, hits the picture plane again, turn it round, edge of the building, until we hit the picture plane. Turn my set square round, and once again I'm going to go vertical. And over on this one, where it cuts the picture plane, go vertical. This is ground level here, that's the ground line. so that's ground level. This is called height line 1, and this one is height line 2. Height line 1 works with vanishing point 1. Height line 2 works with vanishing point 2. You don't mix and match them. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take these heights which are on here. The most important ones are the ground, the gutter and the top. Now on this height line here, this would touch the ground, obviously. It would also touch the gutter and it would touch the top. Notice that this height line along here wouldn't touch the highest point of the building, so that isn't any good for fixing the high point of the building. This height line does touch it, it touches it at that point, so we can use that one. So I'm going to go back to my scale rule again. I know that the full height of the building is 1,700 millimeters, so I go to my scale rule again, to the 1 in 50 scale, set it at 0 on the ground line, and then I'm going to 1.7 meters, which is there. I also need 1.1 meters, which is the gutter height. So again, put my ruler back at 0 on the ground line, and I go to 1.1 meters, which is just there. Now to make sure I'm maintaining accuracy here, I'm going to transfer that height across onto height line 2, from height line 2 to height line 1, and instead of measuring, I'm going to transfer the height across to make sure that I get it accurately. Now I could say that this is height 0. I'll skip the bottom and the top of the windows. I would call them 1, 2, which makes this height 3 and height 4. So I'm going to mark that on here. That's height 0, height 3 and height 4. Okay. Now you just have to try and follow what's going on here. I'm going to vanishing point 1. I'm going to shoot a construction line from there through the ground line and down into this space. I'm then going to shoot from the vanishing point through that position and off into space here, and from that position through height 4 and off into space there. So I'm beginning to project my lines out in this direction. And again, I have to be incredibly accurate. Even a pencil's point thickness will make a difference. Don't worry if it goes across into the plan, it's just a construction line. Again, being very accurate, across into space, and once again off into space there. So this is the bottom edge of my building. This is the height that the gutter's at, and this is the height of the highest point of the roof